So the cyber is not really part of my bread and butter work, day-to-day work at Rio. However, I have been co-author of two publications that delve into cyber. The first one is a report issued by the Holy Seas Mission to the UN and other international organizations in Geneva, entitled Human Fraternity in Cyberspace. Stefano Saldi, sitting there from the mission, kind of spearheaded the project. And so there in the report, we tried to see how Pope Francis's most recent encyclical, Fratelli Tutti, on human fraternity, could be applied to the cybersphere. The other publication is one that I co-authored with several people in this room. It's entitled AI in Cyber Operations, Ethical and Legal Considerations for End Users. And this was under the leadership of Kirsi Hakala. It appeared in a edited volume, the Springer volume, Artificial Intelligence and Cybersecurity Theory and Applications. So, and this second publication was actually part of a project that's been running at Rio for the last 4 years that I've led, entitled Warring with Machines, Artificial Intelligence and the Relevance of Virtue Ethics. And in the project, we look at how use of AI technologies impacts on the human users of the technologies in battlefield settings, their ability to act appropriately or not. How do these technologies affect that? The project has been funded by the Research Council of Norway, and I'm grateful to the Research Council, and by extension, Rio's contribution to the funding for this event comes from the Research Council of Norway. I'd like to just start off with a few definitions so we get clear on what it is we're talking about, because this term cyber can be somewhat elusive. So there are some kindred terms that can try to distinguish. One is cyberspace, which is an artificial, man-made sphere or domain of human-machine and human-machine digital communication via computer-to-computer electronic transmissions on the World Wide Web, proprietary communication networks, memory devices, and wireless satellite transmissions. So that's cyberspace, which is really an extension of the invention of written language. Transmission of thought across time and space. So now we have even new ways of transmitting thought across time and space, much more rapid than the previous method. Okay. Then there's the term data sphere, which is the total circulation of data at a global scale. And there's digital, which describes electronic signals or data that are communicated in sequences of positive and negative states. Right? Nothing can be transmitted by cyber unless it happens through these digits 0 and 1. Okay, computer. Computer is a universal machine that follows digital instructions. In other words, a transference of signals in digital form. It's a universal machine because you can do just about anything through a computer, unlike earlier machines that were limited to one specific function. You can, in principle, carry out an unlimited number of functions with a computer, through a computer. Okay, cyber loosely refers to matters relating to or involving computers or computer networks, such as the internet. Artificial intelligence designates the engineering of cognitive functions in machines. Most importantly for our purposes, AI is an automation enabler. Okay, so that's just some key terms. The flow of electronic data has two main purposes. First, the exchange of thought between human beings. Digital communications are the new lingua franca of contemporary knowledge sharing, commerce, and social relations, including warfighting. All right, so now cyberspace is referred to as a battlefield domain. Okay, the second purpose is to enable remote control over physical systems, power grids, manufacturing processes, household appliances, mobile telephone systems, basically anything that can operate via a computer. Cyberspace is now referred to as a global common, all right? And that's because a fundamental human good, knowledge sharing, is at stake. And so cyber and this sharing in what's called the cyberspace, it is taken on the character of pertains to the common heritage of mankind. In that sense, all have a right of access to it, and all have responsibilities and obligations in it. And here we can draw an analogy with UN conventions regarding, for example, the law of the sea and outer space, and some regional treaties involving, for instance, Antarctica and the Svalbard archipelago. And these various conventions either exclude military activities within the sphere concerned, or place limitations on them. And we don't yet have any such treaty for the cyber domain. And the regulatory framework for the cyber domain will be addressed in a later talk by Catherine Preisman. In the report on fraternity in cyberspace, the United Nations Secretary General, Anandeep Gill, provided a contribution. He made a few points that just, I think, are significant. That'll sum up here. Cyberspace is the first candidate for global commons to be man-made. A significant part of the population spends a large part of its waking hours in this domain. My son spends more time than I would like in this domain. We are witnessing a familiar tragedy of the commons. Criminals and buccaneers abound. We need a global commons approach to the digital realm to prevent lawlessness and promote good use. And what ultimately makes a commons is its use. We need guardrails, all right, ways of preventing or mitigating destructive behavior. And we also need common rails. Make the digital commons more accessible, wider active participation, level the digital knowledge-making playing field. And then also promote common benefit and inclusiveness. Okay, now on to the militarization and weaponization of cyber. Unfortunately, from its very beginning, the cyber domain has been militarized and is increasingly being weaponized. All right, what I mean by militarization is cyber has vital military value insofar as it enables communications and enables command and control of military assets. All right, so it's a vital tool for the conduct of military operations. Cyber has also been weaponized in the sense that it is now a means of attack. It is itself a weapon. And it can be used to, well, to disrupt communications, as well as to disrupt command and control. And most large-scale military operations begin with attempts at jamming the adversary's radar and command and control systems, right? And so this sort of attack on communications, command and control will be a constant throughout any military operation. Cyber is also used to damage physical assets, as when the Iranian nuclear facility was damaged via a cyber attack. Cyber can also be used as a weapon to spread disinformation. All right, so what are the main ethical challenges here? All right. The military employment of cyber raises a number of very serious ethical issues. First of all, most of the world's communication infrastructure, fiber optic networks and satellites, is dual use, enabling both military and civilian function. So the targeting of the one will often disrupt the other. Today, many essential services depend on digital communication, right? Transportation, electricity, water supplies, healthcare, banking, and the list goes on. Distinction, the core international humanitarian law principle is now endangered. There's this line in Tolstoy's novel, Anna Karenina, where at the end, the lead character is about to get married or has just gotten married. And he says, a whole new area of vulnerability opened up in my life. Right? Having a wife, children, people now that he's responsible for, and he becomes vulnerable through them. That's what's happened to us with cyber. Hence, some are saying that we are facing what they call the civilianization of conflict. Conflict is entering and permeating civilian life. The trend that began with long-distance bombing, right, is continued here. Earlier, before the civilian population could be attacked, one had first to defeat its protecting army. Now, it happened with long-distance bombing, that you didn't have to defeat the army. You could drop a bomb if you could get through the air defenses. So now defeat is no longer a precondition of civilian vulnerability. So we're all, in fact, vulnerable constantly without our militaries having been reduced or defeated. All right, so now let's just review some of the main ethical challenges. They fall into several categories. First, there is the risk of unintended escalation. All right, unintended escalation in cyber can come about in several ways. First of all, there's AI-enhanced automation, and with it, emergent risks. And this will be a topic of a later presentation. Linkage of AI to cyber. And with automation, things happen much more quickly, leaving little time for ethical reflection. And some processes happen so quickly, human involvement is no longer a realistic possibility. Within cyber, deterrence is difficult to achieve. Deterrence requires that one's capabilities be made visible in some manner to the would-be adversary, so the would-be adversary will be deterred from doing, suffering suffering in attack that might result if deterrence fails. So, but in the case of cyber, it's very hard to achieve deterrent relationship because once you reveal a capability to the adversary can take the necessary steps to patch the system because cyber always works on vulnerabilities in the adversary system. So you're not going to reveal your capabilities. And so deterrence can function in some settings as a brake on escalation. You don't have that in cyber. Then there's the problem of misconstrued intention. As part of the project, we interviewed cybersecurity experts at the Norwegian military, the specialists, and they said that they can detect when there's action, intervention within a security system. But it's often hard to figure out exactly why this intervention is happening within a system. And so the intention behind it is unclear. And this can lead to damaging misconstruals and miscalculations. Is the adversary mucking around in our systems as a prelude to an attack? or are they in the system for intelligence gathering, and so forth. There are various possibilities. But if you make the wrong assumption in countering, that too can lead to escalation. Just a couple more words. There's a big proliferation problem, cyber. And we can call it return of the Greek warrior problem. In the old days, war was fought with arrows. Arrows could always be retrieved on the battlefield and used by the adversary. And that possibility ended for a long time with modern standoff, weapons like, bombs and missiles, which once used are no longer reusable. But cyber weapon software is eminently reusable. I mean, it's lighter than arrows, easy to hide and transfer. And so think about the WannaCry software, which was developed apparently by the National Security Agency in the US and somehow was released and is behind these ransomware incidents, on a large scale. Okay, conclusion. In cyber operations, ethics needs to be front-loaded. And by that I mean it's always teams that engage in cyber operations. It's rarely a single individual. They need to carefully think through beforehand the rules of engagement, the likely ethical decisions that are going to arise, and to come to an understanding of how they will be handled in the course of the cyber, the operation itself. Once the operation is underway, things happen extremely fast. So there is no longer time for that reflection. So that's my concluding word. Thanks very much for your attention.